chapter 16 discussion question is how can you apply organizational behavior and show what you've learned? The main point of this chapter is basically saying whenever a manager is applying organizational behavior, change is a big aspect of it because being able to apply new ways for the organization to behave and ways to be more productive. There's always different ways that people can improve in a way, and that does involve changing mindsets, changing procedures. And some people that kind of have this fixed way of doing things, especially if they've been doing it for a long time, will express resistance towards it because it's like, if I'm doing it this one way, it's been working fine this whole time, but it wasn't necessarily working fine for someone else, but you're wanting everyone to work as a team and kind of shift towards this new way of doing it. You have to figure out how to respond to that resistance and still proceed with trying it while also still listening to the feedback of your employees and catering towards them. So some points that the textbook gave kind of regarding all of this was first that your attitudes towards change can make or break you as an employee and manager. So basically, like, you're the ultimate role model as a manager. So if you're reacting towards change in a negative way or in kind of like a inconvenient way, your employees are going to respond to it that way. So if you work hard towards having a positive attitude towards it and optimistic view that your company can shift over to that, your employees are more likely to shift over to that mindset as well. Change is very complex. Change isn't this simple thing. They're like, okay, we're going to do it this way. Now do it. Not everyone's going to work that way. Some people are like, okay, let's just change it that way. But a good majority of people will question the change and it'll take them some time to transition towards it. So viewing it as this complex thing and not this simple situation can help you prepare to respond to that resistance. People that automatically think of it as the simple thing, or especially managers, they'll question the resistance more and take it more personally. So viewing it more complex helps you not to take it as personally and being able to respond to it better. Another point that the textbook gave was utilizing your knowledge of the internal and external forces of change. Kind of being acquainted with the knowledge of how this can affect both internal and external factors can help you beforehand come up with ways on how to counteract with it, so it's not this whole earth-shattering, confusing thing trying to work through. So definitely studying up and having knowledge beforehand will help you be more prepared when addressing the internal and external forces of change. Another point is identifying the factors that influence resistance can help you as an employee and manager and help you handle it and make it positive. So it's kind of back over to what I was talking about, the attitudes. Identifying the factors will definitely help you be able to know where to express a positive attitude towards the areas that your employees or other managers that are questioning the change to be able to view it in a more positive way. And positivity, even though it might sound annoying at times, it definitely is the driving point of creating a positive attitude and atmosphere towards it. And you can definitely do it in a way that's professional and works for the best interest of the company. Another point discussed in the textbook was managing your stress is very important, and remember that it is contagious, and being the ultimate role model within this is very important. If you are one that usually manages stress more angrily, more negatively, maybe definitely if you portray that, it's going to be contagious. Other people are going to react in that way. So being more mindful, try to figure out other ways to cope with it that's more positive. Because stress is inevitable. You're always going to experience it in everyday life, especially in the workplace and especially of change. So being able to be aware of the knowledge of occupational stress, the different layers of it, and not viewing it necessarily as this awful thing, but just viewing it as a way to handle it better, to where it helps with the change rather than hinders it, can definitely give employees and other managers a good example on how they can be able to work towards coping with the occupational stress of change with organizational behavior better. And it's not a simple process either. So definitely maybe providing seminars or providing different links on suggestions on how to do that. The book gave a lot of examples of just like simply just walking around, touch grass, other different ways. I think there was like yoga, I don't know, but there's also just some like less extreme ways to be able to cope with it. So I think being able to make those more easily accessible and expanding others' knowledge of that can help people manage stress in a more healthy way and transition to a more positive um, outlook of change. Another point that the textbook gave was taking a more strategic approach to change. I was mentioning that a lot with the complexity, since it is more of a complex thing and not the simple thing, kind of putting on a more strategic approach on how to transition to it will be very important. And the textbook gave many examples on how to do this through different methods, through different structures, and it's just really trying out a structure, receiving the feedback from others, and seeing what works best for your company will definitely help you with that. Another point was viewing resistance as a dynamic process with many sources as a good starting point. It also just goes back to how complex change is and how complex resistance is and how people's reaction is. Just think it's a really important thing to view it as something to work together with and not to fight against. And the last point that the textbook gave was stress affects performance and those you manage, so be intentional in how you cope. And it just goes back to having knowledge about occupational stress, being the role model and not showing it as a negative thing, because it really does affect performance. If you're stressed out about this change that's going on in your occupation, you're going to be so focused on trying to figure out what that's about that other areas of your job you're not going to be doing as well, or how you treat others won't be as well. It kind of transitions. It happens in different ways for different people, but being able to be aware of how it can affect performance, and definitely gaining the desire on it not affecting your performance and figuring out better coping ways to deal with it so it doesn't affect your performance as a successful employer or manager will definitely help the transition of change be more effective, be more positive, and yeah, just be a more welcome thing that happens.